Make sure our players are ready, and my cat looks like he's ready to pounce on top of me while I'm trying to cast this game. The players are ready. Going to do a game on Arabia, which you haven't yet seen with the revived show matches. Looks like we're going to do Libo versus Dimmy next. That'll be a hell of a game. Both players really strong. Macro players really quite experienced at the game. But now we got one of the more lower elo matchups here in Seesaw versus Sylvia, though with the way Seesaw's playing, I think he's going to be moving up in everyone's tier lists over the next couple of weeks, or even couple of days. It's a pretty killer early game aggression. So we're here on Arabia, and our players, we've got these big wall off, some nice high ground here. There's a lot of resources up here, but there's no actual hunts. There's a lot of gold, stone and berries, but they're going to want to try and get onto this huntable down here if they can, and do their best to hold onto it. Sylvia's gathering from distant trees at the moment. Don't commit to the berries here. Seesaw going on the low ground, going to go for that hunt. So the reason you want to do this, even though it's obviously more threatening, you get a big boost to your gather rate. So berries and farms, your slowest food gathering source. Hunts, going to be your quickest with your villagers, although it is outpaced by fishing ships. And as you can see, there is actually fish on this map in most of these little ponds. One or two of them won't have any fish, but particularly the ones right in front of our players are typically the ones that do have schools of fish. And it is actually worth it making one dock and one fishing ship. And if you go for 2 docks and have 2 fishing ships up to take the gather rate and conservation upgrade, if you've only got one, it's generally not quite worth it. So Sylvia's going for Picker's Gloves, really handy, 20% gather rate on those berries. Brings it more in line with the other resources. In fact, it should actually outpace starting huntable gather rate. Oh no, not quite, sorry. That's right, hunting dogs, if you get that, your herdable gather rate outpaces your berries gather rate. It gets a bit confusing, I know. So yeah, hunt gather rate and herd gather rate are sort of intertwined. At least in PvP. In PvE, herdables don't actually benefit from hunt gathering technology. They do benefit from their own herd techs on certain civs, like Celts, where they've got access to them. Our players will be looking to try and go for 5 or 6 wood gatherers, 5 or 6 food gatherers, go for an H2, and then the game can really start to get quite aggressive from there, because you'll want to try and get onto the low ground and maintain control of that. But the longer this goes on, the more likely we are to have our players fully wall off this choke point on their sides of the map. If they can do that, it really means they can go for that caravan economy. So AOEO, caravans are king in the late game. The early game, they are quite expensive, because they're about 170 resources per caravan. They are 2 population, but the amount they actually carry is pretty phenomenal. So Sylvia's actually got this alley here, which is a huge amount of food. Hasn't actually got a starting hunt right on the doorstep here. I mean, there might be one over here or over here that, oh, actually no, the scout's seen that, so it's unlikely to be there. Could be one over here, or even possibly out here, but Sylvia has unfortunately not really got any huntable source that wasn't aggressive, so forced to go on the elephant now. Already committing to Picker's Gloves, so not wanting to commit to hunting dogs as well as the barracks and try and afford the A job. We need to make some more villages though, because Seesaw is going to play very macro intensive, really already quite good at that, which is what you want to see. It just doesn't leave things to chance the same way that playing a very limited eco does. So Sylvia's actually restarting bill production. Must have just sort of dipped on food income, or mustn't have even realised. So Sylvia's trying to gather on the alley here, and I don't think Seesaw's spotted this yet. Although, well, he's actually seen the storehouse started, but hasn't decided to engage it just yet. And there is a barracks there, so perhaps he's a little bit worried that Sylvia's already got spears parked here. Seesaw Much better spot to go to H2 here, I think. A lot of wood gatherers. Sylvia, I think 3 on the food, so it's going to be a struggle to make both spears and villagers at the moment. Seesaw does have that slight military advantage at the moment, so Sylvia's really going to want to try and pull this guy back into town center radius. Just try and keep everything protected over here, because if Seesaw can get a couple of kills with a bigger spearman count here, it can really put him ahead. He's going to go for Picker's Gloves now because he's going to fall back onto his berries. Start stone gathering as well, so it's a bit convenient having that right there. Sylvia's having to commit to 3 storehouses on these outer resources, so it's not quite as efficient for him, but for her, sorry. But now that Seesaw's trying to take out the house, Sylvia can actually deal a bit of damage to these spearmen. Have her own, try and defend here. But yeah, you don't really want to be taking fights like this where it's 5 against 1 or 6 against 1, because your unit's just going to get mowed down. You're just best off waiting till you've got 3 or 4 of them, and your opponent's really committing to trying to finish off the house. In fact, Sylvia may actually be able to use this town center to attack these, even though it's not attacking at the moment. If you right-click, you'll have an extra 1 range over what you normally will have. And this next town's house should actually be... Ooh. Actually, these guys might be right on the edge, standing right there. So, but yeah, Seesaw's set up for H2. Sylvia trying to afford H2, has plenty of wood. But trying to go for this many early game spearmen, it's slowing down her age up. Actually, you can cancel a couple of these guys and get Bronze Age on the way, get that a little bit quicker, or even just keep making build production through this. Because eventually Seesaw is going to have access to counter infantry and hypaspists. They'll be able to take these one-sided fights even quicker. Sylvia's age up, not too far behind Seesaw's at the moment. But at 14 villages to 25, it's looking rough for Sylvia in spite of not actually losing any villagers here, just because she hasn't maintained that constant military production. Needs to start gathering some gold, so she can get on top of that. And the barracks is actually going to be reasonably safe here. The town centre can be able to help shield these spears a little. To Seesaw's Bronze Age kicking in. Sylvia committing to another barracks, which may actually be the way to go if she can break out before Seesaw is able to get a second town centre here and try and shove him back on the low ground. Because obviously this is where all the hunts and all that fishing eco is here, so our players are eventually going to want to go for all that. These villagers have been quite lucky down here. Seesaw, as much as he's getting favourable kills against the spears, he's also slowly losing spearmen to the town centre, so it's sort of undoing all the value that he's actually been getting early on here. But he's going to be pulling ahead because Sylvia needs to keep up that spearman that villager production. Without it, you just start slipping further and further behind, even without taking direct economic damage. With the spears right at the back there, it's actually really nice positioning. Sylvia needs to probably swap to hypaspis production here at the moment. I think that's what's going to happen. Oh, conditioning. And then a lot of spears, so, I mean, conditioning is important, but at the same time, if you can get hypaspis out, they're just going to be so much more value in infantry combat than spearmen will. Seesaw overextending a little bit, going to lose a couple of spears for this. So kill count's actually not too bad for Sylvia at the moment, just because Seesaw has been a little too aggressive trying to take out that barracks, but it is still a big blow. While Sylvia going to lose the hunt gatherer there, so that'll be really rough. It's nearly finished on that elephant though, so Seesaw going to start gathering a bit of stone. Still producing only spearmen. Doesn't have conditioning yet either, so eventually Sylvia will outpace Seesaw's military production at the moment, but you can definitely afford to throw down some more production, even pull some of these wood gatherers off and put them on the stone and on the gold, keep those upgrades, and that second town centre coming out. Seesaw's got every age 1 and 2 upgrade except for plough at the moment. Sylvia's really only taken picker's gloves at the moment. It's actually a rough spot for Seesaw because even though he's got the unit advantage, he's going to lose a couple of spearmen here. And Sylvia again is just sort of overextending a little bit because as much as you are getting town center damage off, you really want to make sure that you're not actually losing your spears while trying to pull these guys into the range. It's rough for Sylvia. She's going to have to try and get on this rear wood line if she can. Has she actually seen it? Yeah, she would have seen it. So, yeah, she can see all this wood over here. Seesaw trying to go for another tower contain this game. He did this in his last game against Reno, and at this level of play, it's actually quite devastating because he'll force Sylvia off this gold mine, and she'll have to try and reroute over to here, try and get the stone for a town center to park it up here to try and keep all these resources safe and make sure that eco keeps booming. So, in fact, Seesaw not gathering enough stone to go to age 2 town center at all. It's just going to go straight for age 3. This is something you don't really see a lot of in AoEO. It's almost never seen that players go for age 3 before their age 2 town center, just because of the resource investment and the fact that AoEO gatherers just gather so fast, even with the reduced gather time. So some nice control here by Seesaw. May be able to save this villager. At the same time, without his own Hypaspis, he's not able to take down the spears terribly quickly. So Sylvia, it's ultimately really well timed because the guard tower's not finished up yet. Seesaw's going to have to bring over a couple of villagers to do this. Sylvia's going to switch to Hypaspis production, which will be really nice. Trying to break this hold, but that tower... Seesaw's bringing a whole handful of villagers now, so it won't be as easy to push this off. On top of that, it's like 90% done. Sylvia's going to have to try and mass units up over at the back here and possibly try and sneak around and get on this other gold mine. Sylvia, 14 villagers still, so that's not the spot you want to be in. Ideally, she wants to try and have a range here, or if your opponent's already switched to just Hypaspis production, maybe a stables in anticipation of Toxotes production. Just a bit of wood in the bank, still a little bit of gold, and bearing in mind, all these guys trained like this could be being trained out of multiple buildings, get them out quicker. So Seesaw, it's been quite a solid push here. It's now going to switch to Sarasophroi production because Sylvia is now only making Hypaspis, so there's no spears, and there is going to be a switch to a range. Sylvia's going to try and get on that gold mine. She really needs to get these guys massed up at the back of the base, put together a bit of an army here so we can break this hold. But Seesaw, really early workshop here. We're only 12 minutes in. It's going for a ram push, so this is quite interesting. You probably see this sort of style of play in AoE 2 or AoE 4. The players will go for a quick castle age in those games. Why is it not called keep age in AoE 4? There's no castles in AoE 4, they're keeps. PFTK pointed that out to me. This might be a tad greedy. Oh, there is some army to back this up. So Seesaw will just be able to get back on top of this. Even using the villagers to make sure the Hypaspis goes down faster. And if this tower goes up, it's really rough because Sylvia's now got to gather wood from well outside of her own town centre. Because this wood line will be pretty much threatened except for like the far tree there. And you've got to try and start gathering from over here somewhere because of these other towers. This is a nice contain here for Seesaw, though he's probably going to want to get just 1 or 2 more rams before he actually commits to taking down the town centre. The Saris going to force out spearman production. We're going to lose out to the Hypaspis, and on top of that, they're also going to be able to evaporate Toxotes here. Sylvia struggling for the gold. Got some gatherers up there. 13 villagers now to 44 for Seesaw, who is still only on 1 town centre. He's going to be able to afford a second town centre now, though. So I think economically Seesaw's just started to really run away with the game now. Nice little raid here. Although, you probably have the battering ram just attacking the barracks or the town centre at this stage. Sylvia on that gold mine. Seesaw's actually given up the chase there, but surely he thinks there must be something up there. He's actually going to try and snipe these last couple of villages over by the wood here. This guard tower, don't think it's actually had murdering holes researched to remove the minimum attack radius, so I think this may be it for Sylvia, because this ram push has been really deadly. There's not enough wood or stone in the bank to come back from here, I think, and Sylvia's really lacking population space to keep training and spend up what she's got in the bank. Seesaw is taking this game as well. Sylvia just trying to gather as much wood as possible now. Don't think she's going to be able to come back from this, because Seesaw establishing a second town centre, already up to 45 villas, is pretty much cut in hill production at the moment because he needs to get more food. I think he's just trying to seal the deal with what he's got before Sylvia is able to actually establish another base here. That's not going to stop her from trying. She's trying to get the stone now as well. It's going to have the wood. I'm going to get a bit of extra wood to be able to make military production. This may be it. Sylvia's going to try and establish another town centre. Oh, just a bit short on that stone. Come on, get a little bit more. I think Seesaw has figured out what's going on here. GG. Sylvia's tapping out there. So well played, folks.